two.
Welcome to the I Talk Back Sports Show. My name is Kay, and I'm joined by my wonderful co-host, Jamal Bonner.
Happy New Year, Kay!
Happy New Year, Jamal, and to all our supporters and listeners. I want to say a special congratulations to the Clemson Tigers on winning their third national title.
Woo!
We will discuss this victory and also the upcoming divisional round of the NFL playoffs. This is a good time of the year, Jamal.
Very good time of the year. Very good time of the year. I do have a very brief shout out. I'd like to give a shout out to ESPN for unfortunately cutting down their coverage of the national championship game. One of the things that I did miss was the drunken room with the commentators, as well as the coaches' room. I thought that even though it was a little odd at times, that having all the coaches around a round table give a very interesting perspective into why plays were called and how things were run. But more importantly, the drunken room of your reporters, I missed that. Something awful. So shout out to ESPN for cutting down the amount of coverage on the national championship game. What about you, Kay?
I would like to thank all of our listeners for supporting the show continually throughout these years. And Jamal, I thought you were going to give ESPN a compliment for 1 second, and then I realized that it probably will never happen.
Never.
So keep it up, ESPN.
Thank you.
It gives us a lot to talk about for the wrong reasons. Okay, so in 2018, there were 34 arrests or citations of NFL players, and the arrests were ranging from domestic violence to a NFL player stealing a $15 charger from an Uber driver. There's a player, Reuben Foster, who we all know is playing now for the Redskins.
Mm-hmm.
He's been arrested. He was arrested 3 times last year for misdemeanor drug possession of an assault rifle, as well as suspicion of domestic violence, I believe 2 times.
Mm-hmm.
So he has a job. And a lot of people were protesting that with Washington, but it's died down now. So, next season he gets to get out there and play if there's no suspension. There was also the incident with Kareem Hunt.
Mm-hmm.
So, of course, these are regular. I mean, they're paid people, but they're everyday people. There is going to continue to be charges. They're going to continue to get into trouble. But what can be done by their employer to kind of cut down on the stupid things that they do, if anything?
It's funny that you bring that up. One of the things that I saw was there was a lady who was in charge of a sort of group that the NFL had pieced together that was supposed to work on diminishing the domestic violence and that sort of thing within the NFL players. And they quit. She quit, I'm sorry. But the members of the committee that she was on quit. And I'm sorry I don't have her name. You caught me off guard on this. But until the NFL not only takes it seriously by committing a committee, but empowering them to push forth something to the players' union and the players that is agreed upon and that pushes forward, just getting rid of this sort of behavior off the field. Until that happens, we are going to continue to have to sit and hold our breaths every morning when we open up the sports page in hopes that it wasn't one of our favorite players that ended up on the police blotter the night before.
Yes, I definitely agree with everything that you said, and I think that also that the commissioner needs to be more consistent on the type of punishments that they wind up handing out. But also, with that said, we don't want the commissioner to necessarily have all the power because in some situations, maybe, the whole story hadn't been told or, we just know what's reported to us. But we want it to be fair, but we also want it to be consistent. So I definitely agree with what you're saying, Jamal. A committee, a panel, something, someone isn't afraid, to get in there and get their hands dirty and to just say that this isn't right, and it has to stop or at least be alleviated a little bit.
I couldn't agree with you more. Absolutely, Kay.
Okay, so we're gonna do the news around the league. So, UConn suffered their first loss in 4 seasons against the Baylor Bears.
Yay!
UConn, yay!
Sorry,
No!
sorry. Yes!
The UConn's women basketball team was on a 126 game winning streak, Jamal.
All good things must come to an end, and while UConn will come back and start another streak, I'm very happy for them for having the original streak. I am happy that the Lady Bears and Waco sat there and thumped their behinds, yes, and put UConn back on the little plane, sent them back up in the Northeast. Wait, I'm up in the Northeast. Let me rephrase. Sent them back home.
Yeah.
And that I like the fact that you don't have necessarily one completely dominant team in a sport. And in this particular case, I like that you still have South Carolina, you have Baylor, who's broken the streak, you have Notre Dame, and you have various other powers within women's college basketball who are coming up, and that UConn maybe slipping just a slight bit, so that we have a very interesting upcoming tournament in a couple of months that it could be anyone's game as opposed to someone sitting there saying UConn and whoever's facing them. What do you think, Kate?
I can't add any more to that. It's definitely a wonderful streak. But then again, as you're watching it and you're wanting to see competition, you're wondering, like, what is the recruiting like? Like, if you're a good, high school player, why wouldn't you want to go to another college and maybe help that college have competition against UConn? It just makes me wonder, like, is everyone piling up in one area? Is the talent level low? Is the talent pool low? So I don't want to be wondering all of that stuff while I'm trying to enjoy the women out there playing basketball. But I agree with everything you said. Okay, so you don't necessarily have to give a response to this next thing.
Oh, but I so do.
But this is one of those little things that I love to put into the show. It's not necessarily sports, but it also marks time. You know what I'm saying? So when, you think back and you look back and you listen to the show, you're like, wow, that did happen. So in politics, 45 says that he didn't actually mean that Mexico would write a check for the wall.
But you said.
So, but what did he mean?
But you said.
But how else could that have been taken?
But you said. I mean,
that's what he said.
But you said, because even if I may, Kay, one of the things that I was thinking about on my train ride into work is that during the first utterances of this, during the beginning of the administration, Vicente Fox, the former president of Mexico, kept retorting, "We're not paying for squat," and threw up the double middle fingers. So that you are now sitting here at this particular point and saying, "Oh, well, that's not what I meant." Go back. Because you said it, and you said it multiple times during the beginning of your administration. The current president at that time and the former president at that time both gave you double middle fingers at "we ain't paying for it." You kept saying, "Yes, you will." They said, "No, they won't." And now you're doing this. Oh, what? But you said. What you got, Kay?
I think that at the time you said it, I probably looked at the person next to me and they looked at me and we both gave each other the Chris Rock lips, like the "in please" look, So we all knew that it was not going to happen, is not going to happen. But hey, he's living in a fantasy, so what else could we expect out of him? Okay,
Speaking
so
of,
the last fantasy? Yes.
Speaking of fantasies, I miss this.
Yeah, Tim Tebow is married to Miss Universe or someone of the pageantry lifestyle. So I don't have anything to say about it, but just
I don't what to say.
Which one of these three items is the most surprising?
I mean, purely on shock value, I've got to say it's the Tim Tebow story. But honestly, I'm going to go with the 45 and this trying to walk back the wall situation. That you were adamant about it during the campaign. You were adamant about it up until about 2 months ago. And that as you started to see that you weren't going to get your way, now you're quote unquote, modifying your position, and forget it, you're lying. So it's shocking to me, though, the depths that this man is going to lie to get what he wants. What about you, Kay?
I definitely agree to that. And you're holding a lot of people hostage, to do something that a lot of people, and I would venture to say most people don't see the value in doing. But that will be his legacy, no matter what happens. I think from here on out, that would be definitely his legacy, how, he really mistreated a lot of people trying to prove his point. He thinks. So, yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. So, that being said, we're going to skip over to a heavier subject, the national championship game.
Whoop, whoop.
I will say that my co-host and I, very hesitantly, I believe, picked Clemson. And our hesitance was rewarded. Okay. What did you think about the game?
Well, I thought that the game would be kind of like the last meeting between these two in the championship game. I thought it was going to be very close. I thought it was going to be a lot of defense. I thought it was going to be some spectacular offensive plays. Like, wow, okay, how did they pull that out? But it was not that. I watched maybe the first and fourth quarter of this game because Alabama did not show up. They did not get off the bus. They maybe were told that it was at a different stadium. I'm not sure. I expected more out of them, and they just weren't able to produce anything.
I caught the second through the fourth quarter, and in particular, what really struck me was at halftime when, I forget the reporter's name, something Taylor, I believe it's Marie Taylor, spoke to Coach Saban as he was going to the locker room, and he said something to the effect of they were exploiting things that had worked against them throughout the year, but they hadn't practiced on. And that was just like, whoa. You are essentially admitting at halftime that you've been outcoached. And so I'm going to say that not only did they not get off the bus like you said, but then in turn, their coach was off doing who knows what instead of preparing these replacement players because...
So do you see it as a case of maybe just, thinking that you're going to win and you didn't have to put in as much effort into it? Because clearly Clemson is formidable. You know what I'm saying? So what was he thinking to think that he didn't have to prepare?
I'm not sure. What I will say is, as someone who doesn't care two bits about Alabama, in listening to the reporting that took place of predictions after the fact, that there were some hints here and there of something was coming, because each prediction that I listened to spoke of how Alabama's defense isn't as good as last year and that they lost a lot of talent, but they haven't really been tested, and that this kid was really good at quarterback. So, but they also offset it with, but Tua is this and Tua is that. Tua looked like he shouldn't have been out there. Tua, he isn't healthy. He's not. And that his mobility was obviously a problem. Also, the front seven of Clemson was just ridiculous in terms of the amount of pressure that they put on. And the play calling was really kind of odd for Alabama. But you did not see them test the Clemson corners and safeties as much as one would have thought. It may be because of the amount of pressure that was being applied. But let me just say this, that I sent you a message at the beginning of Monday. I was so happy. I started off this week extremely happy. So, Tuesday. But yeah, very happy.
Yay.
So we look forward to next year. We are not going to fall into the trap of, well, we'll see them again next year. No, it's sports, people. You never
That's
know
right.
what can happen. So for as great as these players are today, there's always an upset win around the corner. So we'll see. In the meantime, we're going to fire off a couple of things. First of all, Les Miles comes back to the Big 12, coaching at Kansas. Any thoughts?
I don't have any thoughts. Well, what I will say, not necessarily about Les Miles, but just the number of big name coaches that are coming to the Big 12. I'm very excited about that. Hopefully that the recruiting will return back to the way that it was before the SEC really became the powerhouse that it is. I'm excited about that.
I'm excited too. I'm just sad about the commercials that Les Miles had been doing that are going to go away. They were actually funny. So this didn't age well. When it was originally written, this question was, Cliff Kingsbury, fired by Tech, were there any thoughts on it? But then it changed to, he headed to the USC. Were there any thoughts on it? And now it has changed to, he is the head coach of the Arizona Cardinals, excuse me. Do you have any thoughts on any of this?
Well, I thought that Tech. I think they kind of got rid of him because of the record, maybe, but they knew that he was talented, and I think they knew that he was going to move on to something else, maybe a coordinator, but not a head coach. So I think that's why they went ahead and cut ties with him. Him being in Arizona, I don't really know about the relationship that he'll have with the quarterback that's currently there. So I just really don't know how that's going to work because they need help on defense. They need help on offense. Their wide receivers are, hey, Fitzgerald, how much longer can he play? He's awesome, but yeah, so it's definitely a challenge there. He's never been a head coach, never had any NFL experience. So how is that really going to work? When last, they let go of a coach that only coached there for 1 year. So what kind of patience are they going to grow for someone who has no NFL experience? Jamal, what do you think?
Well, I would say that the difference between the coach that they previously had who had NFL experience and this other coach who has no NFL experience, something about their skin color. I just can't put a finger on it. But I wish the best for Cliff, Coach Kingsbury, excuse me, and that I hope that he does well. I was rooting for him. I had hoped that we could get him over to Frisco to help out our offense, but it was not the case. So, wait, he's in the NFC. Yo, I hope he fails. So yeah, that's all I got. So, any other foreseeable moves on the horizon from the college standpoint?
From the college standpoint, I don't know, because I think that people would have kind of gotten on that this week, made some moves, but we'll see. I don't know. What do you predict?
Well, I've been waiting for, and I don't believe it's going to happen because I believe you just nailed it. I think we're stuck with Todd Beck, so let's just move on to a couple of former Texas coaches who have met up in South Beach. Manny Diaz and Major Applewhite, the former coach of the University of Houston Cougars, have connected and will be coaches at the University of Miami. Any thoughts?
I think that Florida football really needs to step it up a little bit. There's really not a front runner out of any of the teams unless you're Central Florida, and they're Central Florida, and they lost the bowl game. So I'm very excited for the opportunity that these two guys have in a big college. So I just really wish Florida would get it together and be the strong force that they used to be.
Yeah, I miss the Florida powerhouse. Although the University of Florida really seems to have stepped up under Dan Mullen towards the end of the year, and so they should be something interesting going forward. And like you said, Central Florida is becoming a bit of a powerhouse as well, and that they will not get the respect that they deserve until they move to a different conference. South Florida, we were expecting something from Coach Strong, and
Yeah.
yeah, okay. And this is what I'm going to say. Manny Diaz does not have Florida ties. Major Applewhite does not have Florida ties. I'm going to be really interested to see how these two men are able to recruit in the state of Florida against some very Florida-based people. You still also have the unmentioned Willie Taggart, who's at Florida State, who is the original coach at University of South Florida before Strong came along. So you got some really strong Florida people that they are going to be recruited against. Good luck. So, championship college football, are you happy with the 4 teams as it is?
I am. I don't really think that. I mean, the 5th ranked team was Georgia, and we know what happened. Yeah, we know what happened to them. I think that before Notre Dame gets invited again, I think some things are going to happen. I don't know. They're going to have to meet some type of criteria that the other teams don't, because I didn't enjoy that at all.
If I may interject here, Georgia lost by 27, and I'm sorry, not Georgia. Notre Dame lost by 27, and that other team. Oh, Bama lost by 28 and should have lost by more. It's just that someone missed an extra point and Clemson didn't go for a touchdown at the end. I
don't think that Notre Dame should have been invited. They remind me of Wisconsin, the years that they were trying to put them into the championship. They don't show up in big games. They're not ready yet. They need to develop more and maybe play some different competition before they get invited to a championship game. Sorry. Not sorry.
Sorry, I can't defend Notre Dame. I'm gonna just go ahead and let that go. So.
Okay, so here we go with something that we got from Yahoo Sports, making the jump, and that's just kind of going back to what we're talking about with the coaches potentially, and we didn't see any action. We didn't see Brian Kelly doing anything. No meetings. Kirby Smart with Georgia. We didn't see nothing happening with them. David Shaw from Stanford. Pretty good guy. Doing a great job at Stanford. 78-25 record. No action there. So Yahoo Sports, hey, I appreciate this article, but nothing happening.
Yeah, it seems to be pretty stale, and it looks like it's just going to be kind of a rehash of the current coaches. Although the Jets made life really interesting during this whole coaching situation, but ultimately, how do you settle on hiring the guy that was a part of a team that never won a playoff game but was your division rival? How do you do that?
It's the Jets thing to do. Them and the Buffalo Bills are doing the most knucklehead things that organizations can do within these last 3 years.
Yeah.
They ought to write a book, how to just be mediocre or how not to succeed. I hope that the Jets, they're in the largest market. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
We want them to be okay,
Yes.
But I don't see it happening with the decisions that they're making.
No. The Jets, the Browns, the Lions, the Bills, and I'm just trying to think off the top of my head, are there any other bonehead organizations out there? I think that's it, at least off the top of my head. But yeah, that's... Speaking of bonehead organizations, let's move forward. So last weekend we had a couple of wild card matchups, and very quickly, Indianapolis beat the NFC South division winner, Houston Texans. Did that happen?
Well, yeah, that happened, and as predicted, Houston went back to their old way of doing things. They did not get out there and execute. They did not realize that they were in a playoff game, win or go home, until the fourth quarter. So if you wait till the fourth quarter to play your brand or your way of playing football, you lose.
Couldn't agree more. I was Deshaun Watson. He'll get better, but that wasn't the way to go out. So the next game on Saturday was our Dallas Cowboys against the Sea Chicks. We all know how that worked out. You have anything to say about that game?
Well, I was kind of nervous, of course, with my team, because you never know what mindset they're going to go out and play with. But I love the way they went out, and if they keep that mindset, they're ready for anyone they face.
I was hoping that there could have been a little bit more from the defense, and that Seattle's not known for putting up points on the road. That I understand they gave up the last touchdown, but the game was, I thought, closer than it probably should have been. So I'm hoping that there is an extra step of intensity going forward, especially with the next matchup that they have coming. So,
and let me say this, and I also want to thank all the Cowboy fans for populating the arena. You know, it felt good and it looked very good to see more Cowboy fans than Seahawks fans, and that had not always been the case. Sorry.
Absolutely, couldn't agree more. Yeah, the fans really showed up for this game, and one can hope. Actually, it's just not going to happen. I'm not even going to go there. So, unfortunately, we won't see the boys back home for the rest of these playoffs. So, let's move to Sunday's matchups, which, yeah, let's start. So, the Los Angeles Chargers against the Baltimore Ravens.
So I told, my aunt, I was like, okay, so I'm not going to watch but the last 5 minutes of the fourth quarter of this game. And it was thrilling. But from what I saw, once again, Baltimore, another AFC team, did not realize they were in the playoffs, win and go home, until it was too late. There were a lot of errors on the quarterback, the rookie quarterback. But I think they'll be fine. They're not just this year, no. But in the future, they'll be okay.
I thought that I sat through the first through the third quarter, and finally I just got frustrated with watching Baltimore keep squandering opportunities. So I'm very surprised to see that they actually put 17 points on the board, much less even got past the 50-yard line. It was, and it's not to say that the Los Angeles Chargers defense was that great. I mean, they were really good, but gosh, the way they called plays for Lamar was just awful. It was really just silly. But the Chargers looked really good against Baltimore, a team that I believe beat them a couple of weeks ago out in San Diego, so revenge for them, and that they look like they're going to be a very formidable opponent in the next round. So the final game of the wild card weekend was, I didn't even watch it, and I'm still trying to understand what happened here. But the Eagles played the Bears and they won.
As I predicted, the Chicago Bears had an issue playing the New York Giants. And that's why I kind of felt that would be a kind of a struggle with Philadelphia. Chicago is not a offensive juggernaut. They're not. They play really good defense. Philadelphia, they were putting it on. I mean, Chicago was putting it on as far as defense, but Philadelphia prevailed. And, I think a lot of people are kind of creating a controversy with the quarterbacks in Philadelphia, and I definitely think there is one. I think that Carson Wentz is not as good as what's the other quarterback? He's not as good
something
as
Foles. Yeah, him. Foles.
We don't want to. Yeah, but he is not as. Foles gets the most out of his offense, the most. And Wentz just does not do that. I don't think there's always little areas where he could have, oh man, but what if he did this? But what if he does that? But Foles, he just gets out there and gets it done, So, and that's the only thing that I'm kind of afraid of. And there's no one on the team but the quarterback that I'm afraid of. And I know this probably doesn't make sense, but it does to me. That's all that matters.
Let me go back and say this. I think that the city of Chicago owes that kicker an apology, that he wasn't the one who gave up the 80-yard touchdown drive that the Eagles went on to put this game in the position that they were in. He was not the one who was not able to take the ball all the way down and score a touchdown so they didn't have to kick a field goal in the first place. Much less he wasn't the one who settled for a 43-yarder when they could have had a 35-yarder or a 38-yarder. So he was the one. Also, he wasn't the one who didn't block the defensive tackle who came through the line and put hands on that ball and deflected it. So he did his job. City of Chicago, it's not Bartman, okay? This is, the field goal was tipped, and the NFL officially ruled on that that's the case. Now, back to the Eagles. Don't care. So now let's move forward, and please.
I already know.
Okay, let's move on to the divisional round where things get really interesting. So Saturday we have the Indianapolis Colts traveling to the Kansas City Chiefs. What a game. Go ahead.
I see Kansas City winning this game. I think Mahomes is going to continue to shine as the greatest rookie quarterback of all time. It's going to be a great game. I think that it's going to be a low-scoring game, however. I think there's going to be a lot of defense played in that game, a lot of stops, a lot of 3-and-outs. So I do put Kansas City on top. So we'll see. What you think, Jamal?
I'm going to go out on a limb, and I'm going to go with the Colts. I'm sorry. I don't like the inconsistency of Kansas City. I don't like that they're an Andy Reid coach team, so I have no faith in that team whatsoever. I like the Indianapolis Colts defense. I thought that going into Houston was big and winning that game, and that I think that they're really underrated. And so I think they can walk out of Kansas City with a win. So that's my prediction. I'm taking Indianapolis. So
all right. Yeah, so now the second game Saturday is the Dallas Cowboys versus the Los Angeles Rams, Jamal. Why will Dallas win?
Dallas will win because of ball control, and the Rams defense is kind of suspect in the secondary. They have a very good front seven, but the secondary is a little bit suspect. They don't really make turnovers, and that Goff, if you put pressure on him, he's inconsistent in terms of how he throws the ball. The really big question that I have, though, is how healthy is Gurley? If he's fairly healthy, I got big concerns. Otherwise, I like our chances out in Los Angeles. What about you?
I think that we can win this game. I think our running game and us not turning the ball over is the biggest. Well, and also Dak staying upright. He needs to get rid of that ball. And if So he has to get rid of that ball and not get sacked for losses, not for 20-yard losses. He cannot do that. And if he's able to control the game and just do the little things that he does, we should be able to win this game tomorrow.
I agree. I couldn't agree more. So Sunday afternoon, we have a really interesting matchup. The Los Angeles Chargers travel to Foxborough to play the New England Patriots. Okay.
Yeah, the Patriots going to win.
No, Chargers are going to win. Patriots don't have the defense.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so the last game of the divisional round is the Philadelphia Eagles and the New Orleans Saints in New Orleans. What you think, Jamal?
Saints put up 100 points on them.
I can go with that.
Okay,
I
good.
can go with that.
Okay, good. I'm glad we can agree on something. Okay. So the AFC games we don't agree on. The NFC games we do agree on. Okay. This is going to be an interesting weekend. So, Kay, based upon the, we're going to talk about a couple of Cowboys-related things very quickly. Based upon the play of the rookie, is Sean Lee about to get traded?
I don't really think Sean Lee should consider playing football after this year. I think that he's at the point in his life where he's thinking about life after football. And the fact that, when was the last time he was able to play the full 16 games, and the type of injuries that he's suffering, I think he is a good asset and has been a good asset as a mentor to the linebackers on this team.
Oh yeah.
But I don't know about the trading scenario. I mean, who wants to trade for someone who's probably only going to play from maybe 6 to 10 games?
I don't know. It's the possibility that somebody only needs a 6 to 10 game linebacker because they have maybe young linebackers, and then maybe he gets brought in to be more of a mentor and a locker room person. But I think there may be. I mean, I think that Jerry will try, and I'm not sure that there'll be any takers, though, like you're kind of pointing out. But if there is, I would certainly trade him. I think that these two guys, LVE and Smith, they're killing it, and it's time for some new blood back there.
Agreed.
So, this question, I wrote this question a month ago, and this hasn't aged well. I have my dreams, but I'm going to go with it anyway. Rob Marinelli for head coach next year of the Dallas Cowboys.
Hell no.
Yeah, okay. So the second one is, can we retain Chris Richard? It kind of looks like Miami has its eyes on him.
I think there's another person that they're also interested in, and I hope that they actually give the other person the job. I don't know the person's name or if they even exist. But let us keep our little ray of happiness that we have. We need this.
I know.
We need this.
I know. We do. We do. One of the things that let me take a step back for a moment. One of the things that very much concerns me is each time that the Cowboys have played a Wade Phillips coached team, or that he's had something to do with the coaching, they've throttled us. When he was in Denver, they throttled us. Now with the Rams, believe the Rams came to town last year and surprisingly, buried us under the stadium at home. So I'm just having these moments where I'm just kind of looking and thinking, does he really have our number like that from a defensive perspective?
I think that there are times where the Cowboys are running out there, and that's why I'm really leery about giving predictions on them, because I never know how and who we are. I mean, how we're going to step out there on the field. And there's times in games at the beginning where people will punch us with their best shot and we don't recover well. I think that's what happened in the Panthers game earlier this year. I think also in the Seahawks game that's what happened. And we just do not recover well. We lose our heads. I don't know what happens, but we just wind up just letting them do whatever they want to do. And someone has to point that out to somebody, and it definitely needs to be corrected. So I don't think it's necessarily Wade Phillips led teams. I think it's more of us.
I just made the observation, and I just noticed that we just cannot get past one of those teams. Like, he completely has our number. But I think you bring up some very good points in terms of, we have not come back from taking shots from other teams at the beginning of this season. They've gotten a little bit better throughout the season, but that Indianapolis game just boom, right in the jaw, nothing. So looking forward to see what happens.
Okay, so now we're moving on to the NBA, and I'm going to give you my Mavericks report. Um, we're still, in the thick of things. We're 18-22, and we're currently on a 3-game losing streak. I think that one thing that needs to happen is there needs to be better substitution between our players and our benches. The bench is pretty good, you know what I'm saying? But they just need to be inserted at the right time and taken out at the right time when there's certain things going on the court. And that's a coaching thing. I'm going to continue to be on the coach until the coach is no longer the coach, okay? So let's just be a little patient with these Mavericks. They're actually good players, and they play along pretty well. They support each other, which we like. But, yeah, it's coaching.
I'm going to, as a enemy in the same conference, going to agree with you that your coaching needs to change, that you've got some very talented players. It's a very exciting team to watch, and we gave you your last loss, I believe, but nevertheless, you all are a very entertaining team to watch, and that it really does need to be something in terms of the coaching and getting things straightened out, because you have a fairly good team. Like I said at the beginning of the season, they look good on paper, and in reality, they look good. I just feel that they should be higher along in the standings than they are. So, from the other side of the Western Conference, we'll discuss the Los Angeles Lakers, who are right now 23-19. Currently 4-6 in their last 10 games, sitting in the 8th spot, and a lot of it has to do with the lack of LeBron James and Rajon Rondo. But they're starting to work okay and gel without them, and that things will get interesting as we go further along into the season, and that I'm especially interested to see what these guys do after the All-Star break. But until then, it's just a matter of continue to watch wonderful regular season NBA basketball. So we're going to go ahead and quickly move over to the NCAA men's basketball. Very briefly, college basketball season is heating up with some conference play. Yes, I'm very happy. Woo is right. And the best part, the worst part, I hate Duke. I really do. Genuinely hate Duke. But Zion Williamson, I'm a believer, and I'm enjoying watching him play. And that I think the scary part is this Duke squad hasn't gelled yet, and that going into conference play, it's going to be interesting to see what they do against some of these other teams that they have. But I hate to say this, but I'm looking forward to seeing what they do in the tournament.
Me as well. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Michigan State looms dangerous. Sometimes they seem to show up some days, and other days they don't look like the world beaters that we expected them to be in the preseason. But the Big Ten, we'll just see what they do. The Big Ten has horrible regular season, and then they get to the tournament, and suddenly they start playing. So who knows? The North Carolina, the perennial powerhouse in the ACC, may be playing for third or fourth in the ACC because of Duke and some other squads that are just really making it tough for them. And Rick Barnes has Tennessee looking really good in the SEC. It hurts my soul, but good for him. Just really hurts my soul. And speaking of soul hurting, does Shaka have the squad to challenge
No.
They just lost to
But
Oklahoma.
they'll make it interesting though. They're a pretty good team, They just need a little this and a little that, And it's not going to happen this year though.
They need to stop relying on the three-pointer, and that they lost this game to Oklahoma State by not playing defense and relying too much on a three-pointer when they were cold. So, okay, I'm gonna let that go. Really, I am. So, Kay,
Yes, sir.
It's Thursday night. What do we do? There's no football.
Well, there's absolutely no football on, and it hasn't been for the last 3 weeks. I'm currently catching up on Blacklist on Netflix. There's a show called You on Netflix that someone said I should watch. So that's after Blacklist. I'm actually on the going into the 6th season, so I'm almost caught up, and I'm very
Wow.
proud of myself because it's been 2 months and I've been trying to watch this show. I mean, it's very interesting, but it's a little redundant, and you really got to pay attention, and you know how that is for a person like me.
You're a Hawkeye. You notice everything. So eating, drinking, all of that goes to the side when you're watching your show. So
That's true.
yeah, absolutely. I saw a pretty good movie. I'd recommend if Beale Street Could Speak, I believe is the title. It's based on a James Baldwin novel. Really well acted, very well filmed work. That Barry Jenkins, he did it. So I'm still speechless. It's the next night, and so I'll talk to you about it when you've got a chance to go see it. But otherwise, I don't think I'm watching anything at the moment. I'm looking forward to going to see Vice, and I will see, I think, Aquaman.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. We'll talk about that offline then. So in the meantime, I guess that's it. Kay, I got to go take down this Christmas tree. I guess it's about that time.
No, you're actually supposed to take your Christmas decorations down after Martin Luther King holiday. But hey, we're close.
Yeah, we're close. Yeah, we're close enough. So we'll go with that. And yeah, you keep wearing that Ranger shirt. We'll discuss that a little bit later. So in the meantime, Kay, thank you very much again. Appreciate you. And we'll talk again next week.
Toodles.
Toodles.